what do you see, where do you see the future of data architecture, data disruption? And while you start there, I think we can actually also put this out into the final poll of the day in terms of the emerging trends there. So Gaurav, why don't you take it first, and then I'll open it up to Noel.
See from a emerging, I think data story has just begun. So this industry was shaken up in last 8-10 years. I think there's a lot of complacency which has been built around this industry. Nothing changed. We were doing ETL for so many years and warehouses, and we used to love that. And now with Fabric and mesh kind of architecture, I think there's some more power which is coming to the way the data can be consumed. I'll talk purely, Vipul, from a consumption standpoint, and Noel can cover the other aspects. Data product. We spoke about data product. So once you have Fabric or mesh in place, how easy you can roll out data product? A, from a data exchange standpoint. B, even from a monetization standpoint. Or C, from a co-creation standpoint. So what I mean by that, let's take a simple example. Let's say you are a bank, you have built a profitability suite for your different merchants, right? So that data as a product, right? How you want to roll it out. So maybe you need help of a person, a data scientist who is, very accomplished data scientist, and who can add value to build this profitability suite, which is more like a forecasting model in this case, let's assume. So you can set up this data product where it can be co-created across the value chain. Or it can be, I built this, I want to roll it out to my ecosystem, to all my merchant. So that's what I was referring to as, data exchange standpoint. So co-creation, data exchange, or for monetization. I am in an industry which is dying, but I am sitting on a lot of data. How I can monetize some of the data by putting agri-tech product, by putting ed-tech product on top of it. So here we are putting data. So right now data has been captured, or data spent has been captured on the bottom line or on the expense line of any company's balance sheet or income statement, right? Now in future, I think it will add up to the top line, where we are taking it to the revenue, how data can add organization in their revenue generation abilities. LLMs, ChatGPT, we all love ChatGPTs or LLMs of the world. I think a lot can be done through LLM, where the role of human actor can be limited to an auditor role or a reviewer role, and maybe first order of generation or first order of information capturing can be done through these models. There are issues around legacy, privacy and all. We'll park it for a minute. So I think integration with LLM, or the way the currently ETL is done, I think that will also change or completely evolve over a couple of years, and it is happening even now. So data products, LLM, data exchange and data unions, these are becoming big, right? In Europe, I think by 2024, end of 24, data unions will come into play, right? Which means there will be union who can safeguard your interest, and they can help you getting your data monetized. So data union, data exchanges are also becoming a lot of, they are becoming very important these days. So for me, these are the top 3 trends purely from a consumption standpoint.
Noel, you want to comment on that? What do you see as the emerging trends and disruptions?
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously a lot of things that are going on. We talk about ChatGPT, LLMs, but one of the things we have seen things evolving right now is about the real-timeness of data, right? Real-time is very important. We believe only 20% of data today is considered real-time in organizations, 20%. That number is going to double in the next 5 years. But we believe, in fact, over the next decade, everything will be real time. We're not there yet. Now, real time, which means that as soon as the data is created, is made available for consumption, basically doing analytics at the speed of transactions, right? Today, if you look at, we talk about ETL, data moves from transactional through ETL, through operational systems, ODSs, to data warehouses, and then comes to the dashboard. It comes in after 24 hours, right? Can we get that into 1 second? No, because the architecture cannot support 1 second, right? And that's where the fundamental discussion about Fabric, right? Fabric can overcome that because we can take a shortcut. We don't have to go through this hoops where you got to go from transactional to the operational to the analytical systems and then the dashboard. That's normal practice we have been doing for 20, 30 years now, but that's not going to work anymore, right? So the shortcut is, well, we go to the source system directly, right? That's what the Fabric does. So I would say real time is becoming very important, and I think new architectures like data fabric, data meshes are addressing those aspects of it. Very, very important. We also see AI machine learning, right? Now, interestingly, AI machine learning is two sides of a coin. One side of the coin is the consumption side, where the consumers are using AI machine learning to understand their data, the customer data and the business data, right? On the other side of the coin is also AI machine learning within the platform, the intelligence coming into the platform as well. As the system starts to learn about the data, it recommends you about this should be integrated, that should be integrated, this should be secured automatically through AI as well. And that's a very important point. We're seeing more intelligence coming to the platform as well through AI machine learning as well. And the third thing I think is integration with LLMs. Absolutely. We are very early on this space, right? Everyone wants to automate all these things. We're going to be having natural language interface towards data fabrics, right? We have already started to see that trend where you can actually ask questions to a fabric and Fabric gives you responses instead of writing SQL code, API code. Who wants to write API code and Java code? Right? It can automatically do that, right? We are very early on in this market, but the potential is huge, right? Especially having natural language interfaces or doing code generation, right? Automatically as well. So.
No, absolutely. And you talked about LLM. I want to almost touch upon a caution that I provide some of my business partners is that you can ask me a question, but if you have not done your data hygiene correctly, my answer is going to be nonsensical, right? So there's a lot of focus now on, initially on natural language processing, it was about converting, language to data. Now it's about, spitting out natural language in a readable fashion with LLMs, which is really trying to convert data into language. But ultimately, if the core discipline around everything that you mentioned as components of the fabric, quality being prime, if that is lost, then ultimately
that's the reason why, and that's the reason why you have the fabric in place, right? Because the fabric not only just looks at the ingestion of data, what the question is, but also the outgoing data to the consumer, whether this data makes contextualized or not, is contextualized or not, right? That's very important. So it can do a validation. So there is a validation process coming in within LLMs, which says, okay, I can validate the data before getting out of the door. There's some banks doing it, by the way. So some of the banks I know which are doing it, the validation of data, which is critical, right? So not only about understanding what the data is all about in terms of the ingestion, but also while the delivery as well is a critical component. Absolutely.
Absolutely, and that's a great segue into it. You talk about the banks, right? I mean, the validation is almost mandated because there are certain things as a financial advisor or as a banker, I can disclose, and there's certain things I must not disclose, right? So as an example, I cannot discuss ethnicity of the borrower with my underwriter, and I have to make sure that that's not going out of my systems. So the validation is also about, putting the right guardrails so that you're not on the wrong side of certain compliances. And that's where we are seeing a lot of interest with the
And that's why you want to open the doors of the LLM directly with the data, but you want to have this interface with the data fabric to really provide that context. Because you're right.
Absolutely.
You open up the doors to all data. Okay, here's all the 10,000 databases. Go figure what you're going to do with it. Exactly, you run into that situation. But you have to have this layer of protection of the fabric to provide that context. Yeah.
So, and that's, I think, where I was taking to my last question for the day. I would say, is, I thought that was a great segue. So what do the organizations need to do right now, right away? What should be the urgency towards data fabric and data mesh strategies? What should be urgent? I'd like to open this last question to both of you. From your perspective, what should organizations look at from an urgency perspective?
Well, I mean, it is critical, right? I mean, the question I think is not when, but I think more important is they have to really implement data mesh, data fabric, right? That's the basic of the architecture, especially with this disconnected world we have today with multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, and all the sources going on. You really have to have that. But I would say people sometimes understand that, well, we are putting a lot of investment into this. What is going to be the return? Like, and management says, like, well, you should not really be investing in data mesh, data fabric because it's too expensive. My take on that is you start small and grow, right? You don't have to boil the ocean, boil the lake. This is fabric. First of all, you have to understand a fabric is not like a multi-year project. It can be done in days. In days, you start with a project on a fabric. That's why the investment is very low. And then you grow with this because you can actually add more sources over a period of time as well, right? This is very important. And then you have to have a team. Don't start it as a project with like 2 people. It's not going to work very well. You're going to have a multiple people, but developers and engineers working with data scientists, perhaps, and even security people and business analysts together to drive this result, right? And that's very important. We've seen more people being successful if you're starting with small implementation and growing with this, and then check the implementation in days, and weeks. If you can't do the value proposition in days and weeks, well, fabric may not be right for you, I would say, right? And that's a thing. So I think it's a very urgency because if you need to get consistent, trusted, real-time data, fabric it is, along with data meshes.
All right, Gaurav, your closing thoughts on that before I open it up to some of the Q&A.
I think what is a major hindrance is or what they should be doing. First thing first, get themselves more literate around data and what it can do. So data literacy, I think it is not fully tracked from an organization standpoint. And if it is linked to the data adoption metrics, right? Despite of spending so much of dollars or money into building a data management platform, how many business users are using it and how they are using it? If you can link it to adoption metrics, I think that can help drive some of the change. So it's not linked fully to that extent. And B, if senior management can think beyond reports and dashboard, I think that's another area which can push things onto the agenda, because still we are seeing there's a discussion starting from a fabric mesh standpoint, but end of the day, everybody want their report to be delivered, right? So I think beyond reports and dashboards, and these are the 2 points.
Got it. So thank you, first of all, folks, for really an engaging and, at least for me, a very insightful, enlightening conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope most of the other folks as well. Speaking about some of the Q&A that we have gotten, we kind of touched on the data fabric. Does it deal with only real-time data? I would say it does not, but it does enable you to process in real time all kinds of data, right? So I think that's one question we answered from one of the anonymous users. I think specific to where we were right now, there's a question from Raman Rastogi. And the question is that there's inertia within the organizations on adopting the new platform, having understood the challenges, the urgency, still there's a certain amount of inertia. How can companies overcome that? And I would paraphrase it to say, how can some of the practitioners who are on the call today, make the case to their management on doing this? So Noel, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I mentioned this actually also in my answer there earlier on, right? The time to value matters a lot. The ROI matters. No one wants to invest in a platform which will take a year. Simple as that, right? If you can show results in days, in weeks, that's what management wants, right? No one's got time to do 6 months, a year kind of initiatives. Very, very important. So the fabric is as a building block exercise, which means that you can actually have these components architected in a manner to start to grow with the smaller sets of data sets, with smaller number of data connections. I would start with a few sources, like 2-3 sources together, and make a point about having maybe a real-time dashboard. Today, as I mentioned, dashboards are so complex, right? You can't move data around so easily. Data fabric can enable that, right? So that's why that could be one exactly a business case. I would say certainly it offers you value from a ROI perspective because productivity of the people has improved. It also improves the redundancy where you can remove redundant data and even systems as well. So it's a cost attractive as well, right? So it's a combination of cost factor. It's also the agility, the time to value. It's also having a competitive advantage, which I think is really the fundamental thing, right? And that's what the management needs to understand. And also, this is not a project. This is not like a project we're running in a small IT department, which no one cares about it. It's an enterprise strategy. Very, very. And you can also benefit not just one use case, multiple use cases with Fabric. Once you build a Fabric, you can have multiple use cases with the Fabric. So the ROI is very, very attractive. So people have to realize it. But I think the most important thing is you're getting started this in days. And also the focus is low code, no code. You don't have to write code if you don't have to write code. Simple as that. You can write code if you wanted to customize it further, but you don't have to write because the connectors are all automated. The data movement, the data ingestion, processing is all automated.
Makes sense. So to paraphrase and summarize, pick up high value use cases, but don't take a lot of time. Start doing them in a very, very small, meaningful chunks in a matter of days to, showcase value. Great response. The next question I'd like to pick up is from Deepshika. She thanks you for an insightful session, which I do as well. Gaurav, maybe you want to take this one. Her question is, what are some of the core essential pillars of governance, data governance, and yet why does data governance typically fail?
See, core, I'll answer the easy part first. So when we are talking about data governance, I think everything starts with metadata. So metadata management, when I'm talking about metadata, let's go back how I can generate that metadata. This is where you have to have a strong data discovery layer in place, which can pick up that metadata. How the metadata can be linked, because just having a metadata or filling up a repository with metadata is not going to help. So this is where the interconnectedness of that metadata come into picture. We spoke about graph, we spoke about taxonomy. So shared language, so from a governance aspect, metadata management is one area. Second, your data cataloging, data domain, that's setting up that sort of architecture where you are cataloging your data, which means where you are organizing your data so that you can start using the data later on. So data cataloging, data domain setup, these are some of the key things. Once you're connected to data store, once you discover the metadata, now we spoke about data quality. We spoke about PI information or information classification. That is also a key component of any good data governance setup, right? Then your organization policies, procedures, guidelines, these are also part of that. From a security, how you are setting up your RBAC, ABAC, all your security right permission is also part of your data governance. So think of data governance like, how you are governing. We spoke about, when we started this discussion, we spoke about data fabric, how it can help you create a unified, consistent, accurate. So for consistency and accuracy, how you can set up practices which can assure consistency and accuracy is what data governance in short helps you do. Now, Why organization fail to do that? Because data governance, typically it is being viewed as a tick box exercise purely from a compliance standpoint, right? So the general thinking is, if I'm operating in a regulated industry, I need to do something to the data governance because I want to satisfy my regulators. But if I'm not in a regulated, deep regulated industry, there is no advantage of data governance. And I'll quote the numbers. If you go by McKinsey's and some of the research from Forresters and Gartners of the world, 3% of the data is actually is of high quality, is of a good quality. Majority of the data is a bad quality data. And you have spent what, maybe Noel can correct me, and this is based again on one of the research firms. So $3 trillion a year just to fix on the data quality issue, right? Because it is not viewed directly to your operational issues. It is not viewed as a sustenance case. It is purely viewed as a compliance case. And this is where it fails.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I think those are a good point. I just want to add here is that also we see, people don't really include the data security and the governance folks sometimes in these projects, and that I think is the afterthought where the projects are running, and then they don't include these governance and security. Now, I think that's what should start from day one, right? As you start building on the fabric, you need to actually have the security people, you need to have the business people, you need to have the governance controls as well from day one established as well. And I think also the issue is also about real-timeness of data, right? How do you deal with real-time governance of data, which obviously can also be a challenge. I know besides data quality, we talked about it as well. So these are definitely big challenges. I would say definitely have a standardization of the practices on governance and security. You want to make sure the data is regulated, classified, categorized based on what domains you are using, so that people can get to what data they are accessible to. Not that everyone has to access all data. So that's why it becomes a nightmare. Imagine opening up like a pipe of water, and everyone can drink the water, right? That's exactly what can happen in Fabric. You got to be careful exactly who gets to drink what kind of water, right? And I think that's exactly the regulation that comes in the Fabric. So categorization, and also having discovery of data, and also the real-timeness of data, the quality, all these are very important attributes. So that's why you don't want to integrate all sources of data right away. You want to be incrementally growing 1, 2, 3, 4 sources every few days or a few weeks, and building on it, right? So yeah.
Awesome. So I do see more questions coming in. Unfortunately, we are nearing the end of the time. I want to thank, first of all, the audience for some very engaging questions. There is an email, info@scikiq.com. Please send your other questions to that email. Think questions that we have not been able to answer, we'll pick it up from there. Additionally, please in chat, do leave your email. If you'd like to have a demo of SciKIQ, people will be in touch with you. And last but not the least, thank you so much, Noel and Gaurav, for all the time that you provided us. This was a great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vipul. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Cheers.
Bye.